And we're exhaustive. So we're talking about chaos, right? But specifically, we're using that as a case study for how perspective determines perception. And we're going to talk about, I like to talk about dragons. And dragons have been a metaphor for chaos all the way back, even in the Bible, right? Leviathan, the twisting serpent, is pictured as a representation of chaos. And so, with that, dragons aren't just an example of chaos, but they're also gatekeepers of value, especially in Western thought. And, when you think about it, right, the dragon's always sitting on a pile of gold. That means that there's something valuable that dragons hold that, if you could just get past the dragon, you could get that thing that you really need. And it's kind of like the scarecrow metaphor. Jason Upton does a song referencing a poem by Wendell Berry. And he talks about a scarecrow sitting in a field and how a wise bird would recognize the scarecrow for what it is, as something that's guarding the food that the bird actually needs. And so recognizing that and using that actually as an opportunity to go where the other birds are afraid to go and get the thing that's needed. And dragons are kind of like that in stories. It's an example of the meaningful change that we need. In chaos itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually, it's unshaped potential, right? And so you see this even in the Bible, right? It says that the Spirit hovered over and the earth was formless and void. And that's tohu bohu, or tohu vabohu. And it's without form and void, but it's not just nothing, right? It's kind of this unmastered chaos, or it's a place of potential. So I was thinking about how this relates to I don't know if I heard the story or if, I think I heard it at some point in time. This little girl comes in and she has this pet caterpillar that she's been taking care of. And she comes in one day and the caterpillar's gone and she's freaking out. She's upset. She don't know what happened. But clearly the caterpillar, must have perished or something. She goes and gets her mom, and her mom knows what's going on. And sure enough, a couple days later, in the cage there's a butterfly. And even I think in the original story, the kid thought the butterfly had eaten the caterpillar and was really upset. And that's going through that chaos and that change, right? And if you don't know what's going on, it'd be really easy to think that as a child, to think that caterpillar was dead. And I just thought that was kind of a fun way of exploring transformation. There's two kinds of mindsets. It's a fixed or a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? But a growth mindset is a person who loves to learn. And that's what I'm aiming to be. I'm aiming to not assume that I understand what's going on or that I know what's going on, but that there's always room to grow. There's always space for me to break out into, and there's always a new level. And going back to that butterfly thing, right? A caterpillar, scientifically speaking, has all of the ingredients that a butterfly has. Its DNA is butterfly. Its DNA is not caterpillar. And sometimes there's, in the chaos of our lives, there's actually the ingredients for meaning. So the whole thing is the dragons exist to be conquered. That's what they're there for. There's not a single story that is meaningful where the dragon just sits on the hoard of treasure and no one ever approaches it, right? the whole thing that makes that story matter is that somebody decided to be brave and confront the thing that is ancient and terrifying, and to find what was of value on the other side. And that's something that I think we all have to decide either to do or not to do. Yes, takeaways. But chaos shows where growth must happen, right? And it shows where there's potential. It shows where there's value. So with that, I said this earlier in the last one, but when there's no chaos, order becomes tyranny, right? And chaos with no order is just pure destruction. It's desolation. It's that tohu bohu that it talks about in Genesis. And that place in between order and chaos is where growth happens. So we've talked before about the ladder of inference, and the thing about it is that like you're always building a caricature of a situation, and then you're interacting with your caricature. I like to use that word because that's a really great example, and I've done it before. You see a situation, you have a bunch of data in that situation, you select certain data out of that situation, and then you take that data and you make a representation in your mind of the situation. And then you interact with that representation from here on out. You use it to form beliefs, and you use those beliefs to inform your actions. And so, when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're establishing a perspective, and you're using that perspective to establish your perception. And so there's two ways that we can approach most things in life. And this is I thought was a really neat idea. A lot of times people say, why is this happening to me? And I think that a better way of approaching it when something chaotic or unexpected happens in life, a better way of approaching it, rather than saying, why is this happening to me? What if we said, why is this happening for me? Right? What does this have to teach me? What does this have to offer me? What is the treasure that this dragon is guarding? Or what's the field of bounty that this scarecrow stands between me and? When we name chaos, it transforms. And it's undeveloped competency. It's fear that's unnamed. And it's potential that's unexplored. And that's the whole thing that the dragon represents in stories. So with that, the question I have today is, what are some dragons that you're facing, right? What are some giants in your life, and what treasure might be on the other side of it? And how can your perspective change to better influence your perception? Anyways, thank you guys so much. I hope that this wasn't too willy-nilly. Sometimes I feel like the groups that I do at work go better than these little videos, because I have to fit a whole hour into 5 or 10 minutes. At least that's what I'm shooting for. So hopefully I was able to get it down to 5 or 10 minutes on this one. But y'all have a blessed day, and thank y'all so much for tuning in.